Dead by Daylight has many licensed killers and characters, but arguably the most important one in the entire game's history is its first licensed DLC, that being the Halloween chapter that gave us Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, and Haddonfield. This DLC is the catalyst for what DBD is now, a giant crossover of dozens of characters from different media. So surely, Myers must be treated with lots of respect from Bhvr, right? Well, about that, the Shape is literally the most outdated killer in all of Dead by Daylight. But how did this happen? In today's video, I want to talk about how Michael Myers has fallen from grace, from being one of the coolest and most influential killers to one that has lost his identity and is more of a relic from a different age. Left so untouched that his entire kit has been untouched since his introduction. So, Halloween is Dead by Daylight's first licensed chapter, which is, of course, a big deal. This chapter is what led to us getting the game becoming what we have today, with horror from many different franchises, from Hellraiser, Resident Evil, Silent Hills, Stranger Things, and many more. To say this DLC is important to the game's history is a huge understatement. So surely, a chapter like this would be treated with lots of care and respect, right? In actuality, this chapter has had a lot of controversy around it since its beginning, from the perks, the killer, and most definitely the map. Now, don't get me wrong here, this chapter isn't something forgotten and completely abandoned like the Nightmare on Elm Street chapter, which I did a video about, but it's definitely nowhere near as popular as it should be. Right now, the Halloween chapter is a very middle-of-the-road DLC in terms of quality, which does make sense, of course. I mean, it was the first of its kind. And for it to still stick around after all this time shows how well the power of having a big name attached to your game is. And while it is pretty average in terms of popularity in the game, it still has a very cursed legacy. This video, however, is focused on Myers himself, and I'll be talking about the perks and map a bit more in another video, so let's get back to the star of today's video, Miguel. Also, if you can, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1K, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, and maybe follow me on Twitter, even though I don't really use it that much. But back to the video. Michael's kit for the time was amazing to say at the least, because of course, Dead by Daylight at the time had only 4 other killers, that being Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, and the Nurse. Compared to those 4, he is something entirely new. A killer who stalks their prey and gets stronger as the match goes on, and can down survivors instantly with his basic attacks, and instantly kill them when he's in tier 3, that is insane. Along with getting an increased lunge distance and faster vault speed. However, just like everything else, his uniqueness and speciality eroded over time, becoming a relic of the past, overshadowed by the newer generations of killers who do what he does better in almost every single way. Let's break down his kit and see why Myers has fallen so far over the years. I'm sure all of you know how his power works, so I'll keep it short and sweet. By holding down your power button and staring at survivors, you get stronger, and at level 3 you gain the ability to attack farther, vault faster, and can instantly down or kill with add-ons survivors. Got it? Good. So first, let's obviously start with the power. While stalking a survivor, they will shift from being white to red over time, symbolizing the amount of stalk energy a survivor has. And once depleted, being fully red, they will no longer give any charge to your power, which means that Michael Myers is the only killer in the entire game to lose his power after a certain point. Yes, there are a few other killers who sort of have a limited aspect to their power like Pig, but still she has her crouch and increased lunge attack, so she at least has that, while Myers only has evil within. This is still his biggest issue to this day, because it means that as survivors keep playing, they can worry less and less about being downed instantly, as if they run out of stalk energy, that means that Myers can't pop tier 3 and instantly down them. Compare this to other killers who can power up or insta-down. Oni's blood orbs are infinite as long as survivors are injured and his power slowly charges over time, Ghostface can stalk infinitely, and Plague at least leaves all survivors throwing up constantly and can be broken the whole match, versus Myers who can only use his M1. There have been many ways to circumvent this crippling issue in his kit, with the most obvious one being, let the energy recharge over time. I get why this is put in place so that you can't farm tier 3 off of one survivor, but then maybe shift the numbers around so you get less max energy from a survivor, but it can regenerate over time. Instead of seeing a group of survivors and when you go after one, you realize you don't even have enough to pop tier 3. Along with the ability to make survivors expose / instantly down them has obviously increased over time, with killers getting more ways to make them exposed easier. One of the changes I wish they would make would be that as you get closer to a survivor, the less stalk amount you would get, especially while in the tear radius. I always felt like stalking at point blank can't even be considered stalking, considering that, by definition, you're supposed to really be doing it stealthily. Being literally right in front of them isn't stalking them. I would personally make it so that the further away you are from a survivor, the quicker you gain it, and the opposite as you get closer, similar to Ghostface's, where if you hide, you get more charge on them. Additionally, I would make it so that if a survivor isn't looking at you or is performing an action, while you stalk them, you would gain increased amounts of stalk energy due to you actually stalking them. One of the best things someone can do is stalk someone right at the start and pop tier 2 on them while they're on a gen and see them panic from the sudden realization of hearing Michael Myers' terror radius. This also applies to Ghostface, instantly going into Shroud to stalk a survivor and pop exposed when you're like 3 centimeters away from them. I feel like this would reward playing and positioning better while punishing stalking and chase and gaining half of a tier 3 by running in circles around a rock, which at that point you're not stalking them. That is not stalking at all. See, if we compare the stalking of Ghostface's powers to Myers' stalking power, Ghostface beats it by miles. It's not even a competition. Hell, Ghostface is just what Myers should be. Ghostface's stalk works better, since you can charge it faster if you position well and peek around corners, and you can crouch and stalk to hide yourself better. Then if you try and stalk them in the open, you get revealed and lose the ability to stalk, which is exactly how Myers should work. Then we get into his buffs from tiering up, and they're average at best now, but something that was insane back then at the time. Back then, getting increased vault speed and lunge distance was a one-of-a-kind thing. And while lunge distance still isn't very common, there's a few killers who can do it, and coup de grace. Killers like Wraith, Legion, and Spirit can get increased lunge range, and maybe a few other killers. Then there's the increased vault speed you get, and back then with how slow vaulting used to be, this was huge, as it could shut down many of the strongest loops in the game due to him being able to instantly vault and take a huge lunge, instantly downing a survivor. Now we take a look at modern DVD and, well, we have perks like Bamboozle and Fire Up, now, and killers who can vault faster like Legion, Wesker, and Singularity. So again, 2 of his once amazing and unique bonuses have become commonplace now. Finally, we get to the whole tiering up mechanic / powering up, and this is another thing that's common now with killers like Oni, Plague, Dredge, who after a certain point in time get much stronger for a certain period. And while Myers still is powerful, compared to someone like Oni, who becomes one of the best killers in the game for a short time, Plague's insane corrupt purge potential, and Dredge's rapid map traversal and tons of information, Myers sadly falls behind hard. Remember, all he gets in tier 3 is exposed on all survivors, increased lunge, and faster vaults. Since it is exposed, that means that it is useless against injured survivors, much like Skull Merchant's exposed. So if the team has a few injured people, there's no real point in trying to chain survivors as quick as possible with it. And again, since your power is limited, this means that every second that they waste is a second you have lost permanently, meaning that you genuinely have to make every second of his power count, as it will run out. And then if you kill a survivor who you haven't fully stalked, that means that you've lost a lot of potential stalk energy. You have to be incredibly efficient with stalking and playing with your energy if you want to play well. Along with his levels, every time he tiers up, his terror radius gets larger and larger, meaning that eventually you go from silently stalking to loud chasing, which is a detail I do genuinely love, as Myers lifts his knife to go into a rage and down everyone. But this does limit his ability to chain survivors together or go for stealthy plays due to how large his terror radius gets. Compared to Oni or Dredge, who can move quickly and unpredictably, Myers gets a large terror radius that warns everyone when he's getting close. Finally, the most unique part of his kit is his ability to instantly kill a survivor by his own hand. But as you can guess, it's no longer unique to him. Compared to killers like Pig, Executioner, and Onryo, who can kill survivors in their base kit, Myers needs to equip add-ons to use it. Along with that, survivors have to be standing up in order for Myers to be able to instantly kill them. So if you're downed at all, you can't kill them, unlike Onryo or Executioner, which makes it incredibly unique as he's the only killer who can just straight up grab you and kill you. But at the same time, it is incredibly easy to counter. See, all survivors have to do to counter this is just jump in a locker. And that's what most survivors do in a chase against him in tier 3 due to how problematic these add-ons are. Survivors genuinely cannot take the risk of him running the tombstone add-ons, meaning that instead of being able to play the game normally and loop against him, they'd rather just jump in a locker and get hooked, because if you don't, there's a chance he could be running tombstone then instantly kill you, which is so dumb. The only requirement to use this Mori is that you have to be in tier 3, and that's it. And wouldn't you know it, there's another add-on that gives him infinite tier 3. While this does sound OP on paper, it is incredibly hard to do. The mixed part of survivors running out of stalk energy and then the amount of energy needed to hit the tier 3 usually means that survivors have completed 3 or 4 generators, so you're left sitting at 1 generator left, since it takes so long to activate it. There's also the rumor or myth that if his hand is open instead of clenched, it means that he has the tombstone add-ons, but I still don't know if this is a myth or not. So to recap, he gets instant downs, many killers have it base kit now. Increased lunge, a few killers have that, and then the perk coup de grace. Increased vault speed, a few killers have that, and bamboozle. Can kill survivors by himself, other killers have that. He really is a product of his time, and along with that, the only OG killer to not get any form of a rework. Trapper has gotten an add-on overhaul and buffs like being able to hold 2 traps. Wraith has gotten add-on overhauls and base kit Windstorm, which made him feel so much more fun to play. Hail ability rework, yuck, ew, gross. Ugh. Nurse got reworked and reworked add-ons. Hell, even Huntress, who came after him, got a rework for her add-ons and nerfed the iridescent head add-on, which breaks the game. And Freddy got an entirely new power and kit. Then there's still the fact that the twins rework is on the horizon. I don't know, they might not even be working on it, who knows. My point being that Myers is the OG, the one that started it all, yet he hasn't gotten jack shit besides an outfit and some weapon. I ask you, is that really what he deserves after giving Dead by Daylight what he has to this day? Sure, he isn't forgotten like some of the other chapters, but he definitely needs a rework or buff like I mentioned before. He most definitely needs an add-on pass like the other killers because Tombstone Piece is by far the most overpowered add-on in the game, because you literally get to delete someone from the game by pushing one button. I really do hope he gets some love soon, since Myers is such a great beginner killer overall to get people into the game on both sides. He's a perfect jump scare machine for beginners and is pretty fun to play at times. However, once you start playing the game more and more, he becomes a joke with a power that shuts itself down if you fuck up too much, which I hate. He obviously is nowhere near as bad kit-wise as someone like Freddy or Twins, but still, he's just not special anymore and skirts by on cool factor alone, which I mean, I will admit, he's pretty cool, but not as special anymore. But he's not as viable as other killers. Myers, in a certain way, is a perfect time capsule of his era. His add-ons and power haven't been touched at all and shows exactly how old Dead by Daylight was, with a very simple power, weird perks, OP as hell add-ons, but as time went on, we got characters like Ghostface, who does what he does better, and Onryo, who is infinitely more annoying and better at applying pressure. Again, Myers isn't a horrible killer or a bad killer at all, I just feel like he's incredibly outdated. So with that, take care of yourselves and have a damn good one. Peace.